After all of the chaos from the so-called plandemic, the dust is finally settling. One thing is clear: our communities, our families, and even our friendships are more divided than ever. It feels like the manufactured chaos is far from over. Just last year, the nation was rocked by fierce protests from the pro-Palestinian side and the pro-Israel side, and they are just absolutely tearing through our streets, intensifying a divide that many thought was already impossible to deepen. Fast forward to November 22nd in Montreal, and these pro-Palestinian demonstrations have turned completely violent, leaving 3 people arrested. The streets were full last night. Only 3 people were arrested. Cars were set on fire. Windows were shattered. Meanwhile, in Toronto, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was seen enjoying a Taylor Swift concert surrounded by teenage girls, sparking a fierce debate. Is this really the leadership we need during such national unrest? Stick around as we dive into this growing divide and ask, what is it that is really going on behind the headlines? Well, it took about 24 hours for us to hear from the Prime Minister as the streets of Montreal were rioting and disturbing the peace. Here is what Justin Trudeau had to say about it 24 hours later. What we saw on the streets of Montreal last night was appalling. Acts of anti-Semitism, intimidation, and violence must be condemned wherever we see them. The RCMP are in communication with local police. There must be consequences, and rioters will be held accountable. It didn't take very long for the official opposition, Pierre Poilievre, to respond to Trudeau's tweet. And surprisingly, this is one of the strongest tweets I've ever seen him put out. He wrote, "You act surprised. We are reaping what you sowed. This is what happens when a prime minister spends 9 years pushing toxic woke identity politics, dividing, subdividing people of race, gender, vaccine status, religion, region, age, wealth, etc. On top of driving people apart, you systematically break what used to bring us together, saying Canada is a post-national state with no core identity. You erased our veterans and military, the famous 5, and even Terry Fox from our passport, to replace them with meaningless squirrels, snowflakes, and a drawing of yourself swimming as a boy. You opened the borders to terrorists and lawbreakers and called anyone who questioned it racist. You send out your MPs to say one thing in a mosque and the opposite in a synagogue, one thing in a mandir and the opposite in Gurdwara. You have made Canada a playground for foreign interference. You allowed Iran's IRGC terrorists to legally operate here for 4 years, after they murdered 55 of our citizens in a major unprovoked attack. You passed laws that release rampant offenders from prison within hours of their 80th arrest. And what is the result? Assassinations on Canadian soil? Firebombings of synagogues? Extremist violence against mandirs and gurdwaras? Over 100 churches burned or vandalized with barely any condemnation from you? All for a total 251% more hate crime. And while you were dancing, Montreal was burning. We won't let you divide us anymore. Call an election now. We will fire you and reclaim our citizenship, our values, our lives, our freedom, and most of all, our country." Now that is the hardest stance that I have seen Pierre Poilievre take since he has become the leader of the opposition. Let's say maybe he started to speak like this freely and didn't keep all of this built up inside of him. Maybe we could have prevented some of these things from happening, instead of playing this game of cat and mouse back and forth with Trudeau. We know that the legacy media is always going to run cover for these people. Here is all the evidence that you need to see that our media is trying to change the official narrative of what it is that took place in Montreal last night. This is a coordinated effort. The media is trash. Well, as the day comes to an end and we're starting to move towards the night, one could only wonder, what do we have in sight? I want to know what you think is going to happen tonight in Montreal. What do you think the police's response is going to be? What do you think the politicians have advised them to do? Do you think we will have peace tonight, or do you think we will see another night full of destruction? If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and I will keep you updated as to what the situation is in Montreal.